So hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to rekey the gas cap on your 944. I recently purchased one that came with an aftermarket gas cap, and I want to put an original one back on there. Not only do I want it original, but I also want it to function properly and lock using the ignition key for the car the way it should. So today I'm going to be showing you how to remove this cover here and access this lock, so that way you can change out the wafers and get it to work with your ignition switch. So this is going to be very similar as to how I rekeyed the door locks in my other video. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll put a link on the screen right now so you can go and watch it. A lot of the comments that I got on that video were about where to source some of these wafers, and while you could probably ask Porsche if they can get them for you, I find it's just easier to hit up a breaker like 944 Barn and see if they have any old door locks lying around, and you can just take the wafers out of those. So these are just some of the ones that I've collected over the years, and I've rekeyed a lot of door locks using these, but as you can see, I still have a lot left over, and that's what we're going to be using today. So step one is going to be getting this red cover off here. And I've heard some people say that it's best to use a small screwdriver and pry around the edge here, but if you look right there, you'll see a seam, and if you pry too hard right there, you can actually split it. And the way it's clipped on is right around the lock cylinder here, and so you can grab it just about anywhere with a medium-sized flathead screwdriver and sort of pry on it. You don't want to pry too hard because you can also rip it here, so you just want to work your way around. Just take your time with it. Don't get too rough. If you start making a mess of things, just go ahead and move around to the other side. This is not very easy to do, and there'll be a few times that it slips, but there is a lip in here you can actually grab a hold of, and you'll eventually get it to come off. Like I have this one here. Once it pops free, you'll be able to see the inside here. I was able to do it without doing much of any damage to it. Can't really see any places I pried on it. Like I said, you just got to be careful. But once that's out, the next thing you can do is just take the lock and simply pull it out. Next, you're going to remove this clip here. You can just pull it out with your finger, or you can use a screwdriver, but I'll just go ahead and use my finger. If I can do it with gloves on. So once the clip is removed, you can just lay it aside, and then your lock cylinder is going to come out. Should come out. You might find it's best to push this button in. This button is what actually locks the gas cap, so pushing on it a little bit may release it. You can just shake it out there. Be careful that this doesn't come out, and when you go to put it back in, you got to make sure you press it in. So just take it back out here, and what you're looking to do is, as you can see, this key does not work in this lock. It's very close though. So when the key actually works correctly, you're not going to have any of these wafers sticking out. If they stick out, it's not going to be able to turn in this barrel here. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but I am surprised at how close it is. It's only 1, 2, 3 that need to be changed, it looks like. So that's good. And what you're gonna do is just go in, and as you can see, I need to change this one out, change this one, and change that one. So once you do that, you just are gonna remove this wafer here that doesn't work correctly. And they should just slide out and just lift up. Okay, so unlike the door locks where the wafers just easily slide in and out, I found that with the gas cap, I needed to use a pick and push it from the opposite side to get them out. And I'm probably gonna have to use a pair of pliers here in order to get them back in. So what I did was I went ahead and removed the 3 wafers that were still protruding when the key was inserted, and just push them out. And when you're pushing them out, you want to push from the opposite side in which these holes are. If you look at the wafer, you can see that it has one side that sticks out like that, and that's going to rest against the spring that is right there and allows the wafer to rebound when the key is out. And so you want to go to the opposite side of that. So in this case, I would need to push from this side right here in order to remove it. So with those out, the key actually turns in the barrel now. So when you insert the lock cylinder, you want to press on that yellow tab there, and when it fully inserts, you'll see that it turns, and that locks the gas cap. So it just spin now and you won't be able to take it off, and that unlocks it there, which now grabs the inside here and allows you to turn the gas cap until it comes off. So it's working fine now. I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure on the yellow tab there and get my cylinder back out. And I could just leave it like this, since it will work just fine. It will lock and it will open as I want it to, but I am missing 3 of these wafers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort through and find some wafers that go back in here. And since I'm going to need some pliers to just sort of gently push them back in on this, and it's going to take a lot of time to push them out, see if it works, and then put another one in. I think I'm just going to test all that here on a door lock, since the wafers just all come out in my hand. And what I can do is the key profile will, no matter which lock cylinder I'm using, it's going to push on the key or rest on the key in the same place. So I can just remove all these wafers in one of these. I'll take one that doesn't have many in it, and then count the slots, figure out which ones I removed, and then put those in there and just try them out in the door lock before I press them into the one for the gas cap, and it should make things go by a little bit quicker. You can see sometimes they're just tough to get out, and you also want to make sure you don't mess around too much and lose any springs that are in there, but I'm not really worried about it on this door lock here because it's not going back in anything anytime soon. So I'm going to take this, and again, you can see the hole right there. Just going to press on the opposite side, push the wafer out. So you can see that I remove the wafer from number 2. So we got to make sure that everything lines up. This is not the correct side. This is the way it is. So I need to try a wafer in this one, see if I can get the profile of the wafer to lay flat there, and then I have the right one, then I can just put it in here. Not really the way I wanted to do this, but it's going to work just fine. And once I get that pressed in, I should have all the wafers that fit laying flat there when the key's inserted. And the reason I want to do this, even though it'll work just fine, there's still several wafers in there. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There should be about 6 or 7 in total. So I've still got plenty to make this lock and work properly, but that just gives you more opportunities that any other key may fit in there. And we might as well do this right while we're in there. Again, if you don't have the option of having any extra wafers and you're just that close, again, there's nothing wrong with really doing that. It's not like someone's gonna come along with another car key and it's likely to fit. But, you know, the more you have in there, the even less likely that'll ever happen. So I'm gonna take that door lock that I took all the wafers out of. That's not it. It's this one here. And again, I'm gonna make sure we got everything lined up properly. I removed the one from this one here. So I wanna stick one right back in there. And we're just gonna keep trying it until we figure out which one we need to put in. So as I stick this in here, we're gonna see, yeah, that one works. So you can see the wafer is popped up there. I want to stick that in. It lays flat. So that one there just randomly happened to be a perfect match for the one that I'm missing here, or the one I took out. And again, you just want to put it in through the top where the hole is and where that spring is. And you can see it almost goes in, but I'm going to give it a little bit of help with the pliers here. Sure everything's lined up. There it goes. I don't know, it has to be like that on this. But there you go. That one worked perfect. As you can see, move the key, it sticks up, and when I put it in, it goes down. And you can also just go ahead and stick it in your barrel, and works perfectly still. So we're just going to continue until we have all of these replaced, and then we'll have a functioning lock. So I've got the 3 wafers that I removed back in, and it's a good thing that I went ahead and replaced those, since this is not as secure as the door locks are. I cleaned this up a little bit and noticed that 3 of these wafers are missing from the factory. So again, had I left these 3 out here, it wasn't going to be very secure at all, because only this one here would have been locking the cap, and that meant pretty much any key you stuck in there would have unlocked it. So you can go in and just put some springs in here and some wafers and make it as secure as the door locks, but you know, the factory had it like that for a reason, and it's probably not really that big of a deal. So I'm just going to leave it like that. It is as secure as it was when it came from the factory, and I think that should work fine. And if you take it and put it in the barrel now, you can see that the key works now. And before I go, I'm going to be showing you what the different wafers look like to make this job a little bit easier, and I'll be using one of these door locks to help you out, because sometimes you can just look at these wafers and tell right off if it's going to work, because you'll get one that's really close, and then maybe you just need one that's very similar but just has a little bit more height on the top or the bottom. So once you get them turned all the same way, you can kind of tell how different they are. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Just insert your lock, and then you'll put your little clip back in there just like that. Now this won't come out. You can go ahead and insert it in here. I may find it's a little easier to unlock it just like that. Just gonna leave it unlocked. And you wanna sit that back in there just like this. Make sure your spring is down in there and you didn't lose it. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and pop this cap back on. As you can imagine, it's gonna be just as hard to put back on as it was to take off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this back on and I'll be right back. All right, got it back on now, and it's not really that hard. I just couldn't get it the right angle with the camera between my legs. So now that that's back on, we can go ahead and test that it works correctly. And it is working perfect. I just want to be able to lock it now. Yeah. And that's it. Not very hard at all, and I can't wait to get this on the car. But before I go, again, I want to go ahead and just show you some of these wafers here, and I'll use my key as well. So we'll take this lock, for instance, and we'll just stick it down in there like that, and you're gonna see that it still sticks up. So obviously the wafer that's in there doesn't work for the key there. And let me show you what this wafer looks like. I just don't want to drop it and mix it up with all the other ones and I have to do this all over again. Let's see. Okay, so this one sticks up too much. And you can see right there how that one looks. And so you can put it beside some other ones here. Come down with the camera. So this is the one that was sticking out too much. So what you may want is something like this. You can see that these are all very similar, but they're not exactly the same always, and they are numbered. So if you have a 2 or something, you can just sort of flip it over and kind of look. They get dirty and they're hard to read, but you can see that this one here is just a little bit different than the other one. Hopefully you can tell. See, this one was sticking up a little bit and this one's a little bit shorter on top. So you just got to play around with them a little bit. And now let's hope that I remembered which hole I took that out of. So it'll work right. And it does, as you can see. So that's how you're going to select your pins. Keep in mind when this is actually in the door lock cylinder, they're not going to pop up that much. They're going to be held down. And another thing you have to look out for is to make sure that it doesn't protrude at the bottom, because sometimes they'll do that. But as you can see, this is a perfect match for the key profile right there on this cylinder. And that's pretty much how you do it. It's not too hard at all. Like I said, I just keep a lot of these old door locks around, and if you need some, just hit up a breaker and I'm sure they'll be glad to send some of these old door locks out to you, so that way you can just remove the wafers from them. And sometimes you only need like maybe 1 or 2. You can see there's a bunch in here. So anyway, guys, that is how you rekey the gas cap on your 944. All right, guys, here's the old gas cap. I'm just going to get it off, and here's the replacement. As you can see, it goes on and comes off perfectly, and I can even lock it now. And there you go. So anyway, I want to thank you all again for watching, and I also want to thank all my Patreon supporters, since these videos would not be possible without you. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.